Welcome back to part 2, where history proves it was the original Florida. Because the past wasn't classy, it was just unrecorded chaos. Today, medical hoaxes, animal court cases, disasters that should not exist, and one astronomer who lived like a cartoon character. Let's go. 1. The woman who convinced doctors. She gave birth to rabbits. England, 1726. Okay, this is one of the most unhinged medical scandals ever. In 1726, an English woman named Mary Toft managed to convince multiple doctors that she had given birth to rabbits. Yes, you heard that right. Rabbits. This became a national obsession. Serious physicians examined her, argued about it, and some people were genuinely like, well, maybe, because medical science at the time was going through it. Eventually, under intense scrutiny, she confessed it was a hoax, and the fallout was brutal. Careers ruined, public trust shredded, and the medical establishment got dragged for being embarrassingly gullible. Emotional takeaway: it's also a reminder of how desperate poverty and attention economies can get. Funny takeaway: imagine being a top doctor in London and realizing you just got outplayed by rabbit content. And if you think that's the wildest body-related headline, meet the man who turned hunger into a horror story. Tout terre, the man who couldn't stop eating. History gave us a real-life medical mystery named Tarare, a French man described as having an extreme, relentless appetite. Accounts say he could consume staggering amounts of food and still remain thin, and doctors at the time didn't understand what was happening to him. His case became famous because it was so extreme, it sounded impossible. And here's the part that's darkly emotional. You can feel how society treated him, like a spectacle, not a person. In many tellings, he shuffled between performing, desperation, and medical experimentation because nobody really knew how to help. Funny but sad takeaway: imagine being born with the world's worst superpower, and your power is just unexplained hunger. Now let's cleanse the palate with something less personal, like a city that smelled so bad it forced Parliament to panic. 3. The Great Stink, London, summer, 1858. In July and August of 1858, London had a crisis called the Great Stink, and the name is not metaphorical. Hot weather intensified the smell of untreated sewage and industrial waste in the Thames. People feared disease, politicians suffered, and the stench got so unbearable, it pushed authorities to finally act on major sanitation reforms. The result was one of the biggest infrastructure glow-ups in history: large-scale sewer construction plans. Emotional takeaway: it took discomfort to force progress. Funny takeaway: London basically said, we can tolerate a lot, but we cannot tolerate that smell. Speaking of we need to restore order, medieval Europe looked at animals and said, put them on trial. 4 medieval animal trials. Yes, pigs were prosecuted. This is real. In medieval Europe, animals, especially pigs, were sometimes put on trial in human-style court proceedings. Why? Because in that worldview, a public trial and punishment was seen as a way to restore moral order when something unnatural happened. And the truly bizarre part is how formal some of these cases could get. Emotional takeaway: it shows how people tried to create meaning and control in a scary world. Funny takeaway: imagine being a medieval lawyer building a case against a pig, like, Your Honor, we have witnesses. Now let's get into a disaster that sounds like a prank, but killed people: the beer flood. 5. The London beer flood, October 17, 1814. On October 17, 1814, London experienced a tragedy that sounds like a cartoon. A brewery vat burst and released a wave of beer through the streets. The flood hit a nearby area of poor housing, destroying structures and killing 8 people. It's bizarre, because the headline feels silly, beer tsunami, but the reality is heartbreaking. An industrial failure became a deadly disaster for the most vulnerable residents. Emotional takeaway: absurd disasters still have real victims. Funny takeaway: London basically said, not again, and the universe replied, actually yes, beer wave. Okay, now we're leaving Europe and heading to the US for an idea so bad it became legendary. What if we used explosives? 6. The exploding whale, Oregon, 1970. In November 1970, a massive sperm whale washed ashore near Florence, Oregon, and officials needed to dispose of it safely. And someone decided the solution was dynamite. Yes, they used explosives to break the carcass apart, expecting it to solve the problem, and instead created one of the most infamous public oops moments ever recorded. The emotional angle here is strange. It's a story about humans trying to manage nature and getting humbled immediately. The funny angle, what could possibly go wrong, is basically the theme music of this entire incident. And finally, we end with a scientist who lived like a fantasy side character. 7 Tycho Brahe's Party Moose. 1600's Chaos Energy. The astronomer Tycho Brahe is famous for his observations that helped shape modern astronomy, but his personal life included a story that sounds like folklore. He allegedly had a pet moose, and at a banquet it drank too much beer, stumbled, and fell downstairs. Now, historical details can get fuzzy when stories get this weird. But the fact this tale persists tells you everything about Tycho's vibe: genius scientist, chaotic household. Even great minds had messy, human lives. Emotional takeaway: even great minds had messy, human lives. Funny takeaway: imagine being a serious scholar, and your legacy includes, yeah, and there was a moose at the party. So that's part 2. Rabbits, hunger mysteries, sewage politics, pigs in court, a beer tsunami, a whale explosion, and a party moose. History isn't just dates, it's decisions. And some of those decisions were bold. If you want part 3, pick your theme: royal scandals, bizarre American history, or weird inventions and disasters. Don't forget to like and subscribe.